Good morning, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. In this one, we are doing as promised and taking a look at the wintry side of things. Still is an ongoing severe weather threat right now, but when we look at the radar, there is actually a good bit of wintry precip going on towards the mid Atlantic, the Ohio Valley, around the Great Lakes, and then, of course, this is heading towards the Northeast. We have snow falling right now in areas like St. Paul, Green Bay, Oshkosh, Madison. Chicago's getting a little bit of action now. Have Detroit, Toledo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh getting into the action, and this is heading towards DC, and it looks like we're going to be seeing a wintry mix there possibly. See how this cold air works around this system here as time goes on, but from the looks of it, you guys may start out as a wintry mix, maybe change over to snow, or maybe change over to rain, if anything, I think, actually. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Again, not really expecting much in the way of sleet or ice accumulation across these regions. I think the surface temperatures are a tad bit too warm. And then also, it looks like Philly might get stifled a little bit by this. And then, of course, we have to watch over towards Lake Erie and Lake Ontario for additional snowfall. And then, of course, New York City, your snow might be expected later into the day, more so in the evening and nighttime hours. Let's flip back here. Quickly take a look at the slight risk for today. Nothing has really changed too much. The slight risk area is held up as aforementioned. Oh, and the newest outlook just came in too. But pretty much similar deal. Maybe a little bit of a trim off from some of these northern areas. This is more focused towards the Gulf Coast, as aforementioned. The marginal risk has slipped a little further south. Atlanta was in it yesterday. Now it's not anymore, which is always good news to see less big cities involved. But there's still plenty other larger population centers in line for a threat for really all hazards, because all of them are up to slight risk criteria. Tornado, we have 5% chance in that slight risk. Wind is at 15, and so is hail. They did end up taking the significant area. The hatched risk, it's not there anymore. So there's some good news to be had there. There have already been plenty of next radar reports or radar indicated hail, and I can show you that right here as this went over Oklahoma City and Arkansas. I haven't seen much in the way of reports, though. I'll take a look at that later. But these storms definitely have a history of having the capability to produce some pretty significant hail, and we'll see this probably continue onward. There's anything that I'm a little bit suspicious of is this little boundary that's forming right here. This could become an area of interest as the day goes on for maybe some supercellular development early on. But eventually, I do expect this to start to condense into a line. We'll see what happens with that. Of course, I've already covered that yesterday. I'm not going to really go into further detail because I'm trying to go over what's been promised. Also, one other thing to make mention of as well is the atmospheric river, actually. And that's what we have going on over here towards the west, especially towards the California coast, where we've been getting extensive rainfall. This is yesterday's rainfall totals. Still pretty daggone impressive rates. We got about at least 3, 4, some places even getting above 5 inches or more. There's an area right here where we probably even got up to about 8 inches, unfortunately. So the flooding is still a huge problem here, unfortunately. That's one thing about these atmospheric river sets up. They can be relentless. They do not stop for anyone. We're hoping that this settles down soon so that way we can get a break to clean up across these regions, because we barely even got to clean up enough from the last one, it seems. I mean, it just happened in January. We're already in March, and here we are with another one, which is a really unfortunate situation for a lot of people here. That being said, now we can shift over to the winter threat. So here's some more so raw data than anything else. We're looking at the snowfall accumulation from the last 24 hours. This is ending more so last night. Nothing. I haven't really gotten any updates since then, but we did see a little bit of a accumulation across parts of the Northeast here, with more to come. that was the first system that went through. Here's the second system, so it was kind of a 1-2 punch deal. Then, of course, we saw plenty of accumulation towards North Dakota, which was expected. Iowa got into the action pretty significantly. Some spots getting up to about 6 to even 8 inches possibly. Over towards the Rockies, we already knew the deal there, and same with the Sierra Nevadas. And then, of course, we are currently watching over towards, parts of the Ohio Valley, and then into the Poconos and Mid-Atlantic for a little bit of snowfall accumulation. Temperatures at the surface are questionable, and this could limit the amount of accumulation you may see. But we still could expect, I'd say, close to an inch, 2 inches in some spots. Philly, you could get in the action on this today. So we'll go ahead and actually take a look at what's ahead here now. So we got the HRRR still loading, but we only need the first 24 hours here. We'll talk about this upcoming week later tonight. I'll have a second video up for that. But what we have going on right now is over towards these regions here in the Mid-Atlantic. We're like right on the cusp of freezing here. So some of these areas are going to be snow. Some of these areas may see sleet, freezing rain, and part of that's going to be due to the mid-level temperatures. And we'll even go ahead and take a look at that in a minute. But a lot of these areas a little bit below freezing at the surface. We should expect mostly snow here. The moisture is going to increase with time, especially as we draw closer to those Great Lakes. We can pull from that a little bit more, especially with the air temperature being a lot cooler than the temperature around the water. So that's definitely going to spice things up a bit. Then as we continue to go forward here, we'll see the temperatures start to warm up a bit as we get later into the day. And of course, when nighttime sets in, that's when this cold blast will start to take effect. And then we'll be looking into Monday for a new weather situation. And of course, looking at the extreme cold starting to sneak into the Dakotas first before working its way further to the south here. So let's go ahead and take a look at those mid-level temperatures, because that's going to be a key factor in a lot of what's to be expected next with the wintry side of things. So right now, for the most part, also keep in mind that this is measured in Celsius. For the most part, we're staying just below freezing in some of these spots. So I think some of the sleet that we saw on radar may change over to snow. But there's a small pocket right here where we're kind of flirting with those slightly warmer temperatures that could come into play here. Thankfully, like I said, there's not a whole lot of moisture accessible with this system, so the amount of frozen liquid we could be seeing is going to be a little bit more on the limited side. Still, plenty of areas could see up to an inch of snow, but when where that correlates to ice is probably going to be less than 1/10 of an inch. So with proper road treatment, which is something that's very common up here, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the precip now. And we won't even use this full run here. We'll probably just use the next 24 hours just to get an idea of what to expect here. Here is what we could be seeing today. See, like I said, there is some sleet and freezing rain in there. Not much, and it's also a pretty fast-moving system. Like I said, the moisture is really not abundant with the system. Like I said, towards the Great Lakes is where you're going to have the highest totals so far. And even then, some more warm air is trying to advect its way in. But eventually, the cold air does eventually win out, especially as we head into the evening hours here. So either you'll start out as freezing rain, and then eventually you'll end out as rain, or you'll switch over to snow and pretty much stay as snow at this point. And that's pretty much what we have going there. And now, as far as the atmospheric river is concerned, we're going to start to see that threat begin to that extreme precipitation threat really start to shift more towards the northwest, more so than the southwest. So we're going to start to see those more significant totals, more so in these areas here. Let's see if I can draw this right. No, it wasn't terrible. But more so in this region here is where I'm concerned for increased precipitation as we head into Monday and then into Tuesday. That's really been the trend of these next couple systems that should be coming in. We've been seeing that for about the last 3 days on my end. So more so towards Northern California, Washington, and Oregon, we'll be watching you guys. And that's pretty much what we have going on there. And then the last thing to really look at is the snowfall totals, which I'm about to shift over to right now. So here we are taking a look at the blend of models now, or not blend of models, but we're going to do model comparison here. Some additional snowfall we could be seeing leading up from today into Monday night here. We could see a new storm coming in across the northern tier of the U.S. This is going to unfortunately hit a lot of the same areas that we've been seeing. So the snow train continues to roll across areas like Minnesota here and Wisconsin, Michigan too. This has been like the snow belt pretty much for the course of this season. Do see a little bit more action possible for the Ohio Valley, especially once that corridor gets set in place after today. The mid-Atlantic here could see some pretty impressive snowfall total, mainly towards the higher elevations around the mountains. In particular is where I'm eyeballing most of that. Could see up to about 2 or 3 inches there. Philly looks like you guys are going to be stiffed, at least according to the Euro. And even New York looks like they're going to be trending away from the snow on this one. This is, of course, one of many models that we tend to look at here, so discrepancy is a big thing to keep an eye on. Of course, it's the same story for areas out west. We already know the deal with them. We know that there's still going to be plenty of snow left to fall, although it will be more so in the higher elevations than anywhere else. The valleys are going to probably be sticking more so to rain at this point. So when we look at the Canadian model, it's a pretty similar deal. We have snowfall possible across Wisconsin in particular. This really favors Wisconsin this time as far as snowfall is concerned. Of course, it's a similar deal across the mountains of the Virginias. Rockies are a similar deal. Snowfall's a little bit further to the south here. This slightly includes New York, where we could see up to about an inch, but beyond that, it's pretty much identical to the Euro so far, which is rare. We've been seeing a lot of trending more so towards the GFS. The GFS has its own little unique look as well, where we see a similar look for Wisconsin. I mean, at this point, it's almost agreed upon between the three big global models here. And then, of course, looking at snowfall across this part of New York, Pennsylvania, especially towards the Poconos, and then over towards the mountains of the Virginias. Tries to sneak into parts of Virginia, of Central Virginia, and even North Carolina. We might have to watch you guys, especially over towards the mountainous regions. Other than that, pretty similar look there. This is the HRRR that we're looking at, and that has a pretty similar look. I'm starting to see more inclusion of North Carolina here, which is going to be interesting. Let's see how that plays out. That cold air does make it pretty far enough to the south to where that does seem reasonable. Mainly, again, I'm thinking it's going to be towards the mountains, but a few of the smaller cities could see some snowflakes, could see some trace amounts, maybe even some minor accumulation there. Make our comparison with the NAM here. It's a pretty similar deal. A little bit lighter on the snow totals towards the east. Get a little bit more aggressive with these snow totals towards the eastern half of the Rockies and even going beyond it. There's a little bit more snow possible over towards Colorado North or New Mexico line, and then even tries to sneak into the panhandle of Oklahoma here and parts of western Kansas, where we could see up to about an inch or two. Of course, this is the traditional regional NAM. We look at the 3 kilometer NAM. Totals are a little less aggressive. We also see a little bit more increased coverage towards the southern half of the Appalachians here as well, which I find interesting. But this kind of cuts the snow off too over towards New York. So the big cities look like they're going to be spared over here, like Philly and New York. But Pittsburgh looks like you guys are definitely getting your share. You could get up to about an inch, two, maybe even 3 inches in local areas. So still a lot going on there. Then, of course, we have the RDPS, which is one I really don't look at much. It's a lot like the NAM. And it kind of has a similar look to the NAM in this setup. So the last thing to look at here is the blend of models. And this shows a pretty similar look. Again, starting to see a little bit more of a trend towards a cutoff further to the east. Wisconsin, we already know the deal with you guys. Every model we've looked at, every member has favored Wisconsin for increased snowfall. Once we get over towards the Ohio region, Ohio Valley more or less, snow really starts to drop off. I've begun to see more and more of a bullseye over here towards the mountains of the Virginias here. So that's going to be interesting. And then on top of that, I've seen increasing totals over towards North Carolina as well. So a lot to keep track of here on the wintry side of things. Plenty more videos to make as a result of that. So look forward to that. But that's pretty much the end of this video. This is what we're dealing with on the wintry side of things. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, of course. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe as well, and share this video to anyone that you think may find this useful. But I'll see you guys this afternoon. I'll have another video up. We may see what happens with that severe weather. But this has been Tire Metalhead Weatherman. You guys take care. Have a good Sunday, and I'll see you later.